Welcome back to the Worth Knowing podcast. This week we're discussing a topic based around a story that Meg told me about the ridiculous lengths that we will go to as women for beauty. Meg.
Yeah.
Tell me about your situation in Walmart.
Yeah. So about 10 years ago, I decided to get laser hair removal only because I had a Living Social coupon.
What's the new one for that?
Groupon.
Groupon.
Yeah, it's not even that new. I think they're both around. I don't know.
They're both dinosaurs. Sorry.
Both dinosaurs. That's all right. So I had this Living Social coupon. I bought about 8 of them.
That was ambitious.
Because it was before I knew that the office would not allow you to use more than like 2, but the person that I was going to made an exception.
You could have made it rain with laser hair removal coupon.
Exactly, and she was like, I can't deny you. I was like, okay, thanks.
Cool.
I appreciate it. So the pain was a lot. I'm very sensitive sensorily about everything.
Regardless, laser hair removal is
and it's painful.
Painful.
From what I hear.
I've never had it.
From what I hear from people who don't have my sensitivity. So, my person, I don't know what her profession is called.
Esthetician?
Esthetician. So she gave me lidocaine cream and was like, all right, listen. She said a couple hours before your appointment, put on the lidocaine cream.
Where were we putting this lidocaine
This
cream?
would be on my bikini area. And so put lidocaine cream there. And then she said, put saran wrap on it so that then you will hold in all the lidocaine cream. It's not going to get all over your underwear. So I was working in-home family therapy at the time.
But first, can I point out, you're like, this sounds like a fantastic idea.
I was like, this is great.
Great. Thank you for the tip.
Let's do this. And so I was working in-home family therapy at the time in Boston. And so I was driving around all day. And so I had to, my appointment's later in the day. I've got to be ready a couple hours before. I've got to head to an appointment after I put on this saran wrap bikini.
Because we always have to rush.
And I'm full-fledged clinician who needs to make sure her clients are taken care of. So I find myself in a Walmart bathroom. And because that's where I can stop. And so,
did you buy the saran wrap in Walmart? Or you
hell
had it with
yeah.
You? Okay, just
Didn't
need to
have
clarify
saran
that.
wrap.
You didn't carry it in with you and go to the Walmart.
I find cling wrap for dishes even before I cared much more about the environment. Even back then, I found it really cumbersome to use, and I just couldn't.
You didn't have it, so you had to go to the Walmart.
Had to go to Walmart, get the saran wrap, have the lidocaine cream. It was winter, so I had a lot of layers. It was winter in New England, so gosh. I'm like, I've got leggings, I've got a sweater dress, I've got all kinds of things. And so I'm having to disrobe in the stall in the Walmart bathroom.
They're absolutely the fanciest bathrooms, too.
Yes. Thinking, I guess this is my life right now. And I'm okay with it. I wasn't too ashamed about that part. All right. So it wasn't shameful, but it was a little weird. And so I put on the lidocaine cream, put on the saran wrap, put my clothes back on, felt like I was sort of swishing around. Hopefully no one could hear this whole diaper situation that I had going on. And I went on my merry way to my next appointment and met with a family and just was sometimes reminded that I had a saran wrap bikini on.
Now, when you got to the appointment, did this whole scenario work to help reduce the pain?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
So it was worth it?
It was worth it. It worked. It was still painful. I still sort of laid there with tears going down, but not really not full-fledged crying, just
So the tears are going through and down your face, and you're like, this is worth it.
This is worth it.
For whatever scenario I will need to not have hair in this area.
Yeah.
Whether it be
when I wear a bathing suit next in 4 months, I will be so thankful
that I don't have to shave.
I don't shave.
And
clearly,
the not Groupon, what was the name of it
Living
again?
Social.
Living Social coupons allowed you to get all of this at a great hot discount. So you could
I still spent, over all of them, I still spent, I believe, about $800. This was like 10 years ago.
Wow.
Right?
Now, that is amazing. Hysterical, ridiculous, like all of the things. But
yeah,
any woman listening to this would be like, you're a smart woman. Like, you saved yourself some pain. You saved yourself a bunch of money. Because who knows if you didn't have those 8 coupons, it could have been $2,000.
Right.
I don't know what laser hair removal costs now.
It's expensive, but I don't know either.
But I've had my tattoos lasered off, and if it feels anything like that, that was horrible and very, very painful. But the part that I have to point to that I think is the most hysterical, not at you, but as women, is that we have to have perfect hair on top, perfect eyebrows, no hair on the bottom, from toes to anything,
armpits
like
to
neck down.
Yeah,
be a hairless creature, and it will chin down. Nobody wants
true
a mini beard,
that's true.
a goatee.
Yes.
But like flawless eyebrows, cute hair on top, and also I just have to point to, like, we usually have to have abundant hair on top.
I was just gonna say we have to have a lot.
Like, it has to be
It's got to be centered on our heads, and it's got to be voluptuous and long,
silky,
and
perfectly curled or coiffed, or straightened.
Yeah, 10 years ago it was straightened.
And the curl game. Anybody out there with curly hair who's trying to nail it perfectly. I mean, I used to sell hair products, and my curly hair friends would come in, and they had their system of the different products that would work together and make them have like perfect individual curls.
And I try to dabble in that world. I can't.
I remember reading an article that was like, one woman would like wash her hair, stick her head in the freezer for, I don't know, and then go to like squeeze towel it dry, diffuse dry it, put the products in it. It was like a 2-hour process.
Oh my god, that just stressed me out.
I know.
It also made me really cold.
Now, for the sake of clarity, the hair on my head is a wig topper, so I get through my hair routine pretty quickly. I just half style the base and the top goes on, and I have kind of perfect hair. I have hair loss, so it's just my way of dealing with it, and I'm fine with it. But it also, I think, sometimes makes people be like, how's your hair so perfect? And I'm like, it's not mine. Don't want anybody to have that false belief. And so I was talking with my partner the other day, and this is how we kind of got to this topic, because I mentioned it to Meg, and I actually texted her, and I thought, how hysterical, or maybe I accidentally texted you, something about talking with my partner about, babe, have you ever worried about if your lips matched your outfit or your dress that you were going to wear to an event? And he was like, no, my lips are perfect. Why would I ever think about that? And I was like, thinking, I come from a world of beauty. I did makeup for years. I've had clients come into my business when I had a store of clean beauty and spend 2 hours trying to find like the perfect lipstick and try it on their hand, like one after another. And I was actually talking to my partner about this, and he laughed, and he was like, did their hands feel prettier, or like did they draw it onto their like thumb and index finger and like make it talk or anything? And I was like,
can we have a store for that?
Where you try it on and you're
great.
like,
yeah.
It made me laugh so hard, because he just went with it and was like, wow, that is ridiculous. And I was like, but did you know that women do that? And men are 1,000,000% oblivious that that's even a thing that happens in one, our minds, two, in any store scenario.
Yeah.
And I mean, I started in beauty at 21 and had customers come in and go through this routine, and sometimes it was fine. Like, they came in and they're like, oh, I want this red lipstick, I feel hot and sexy, I'm gonna rock it. And I was like, yeah, go out there empowered. And then other times it was this massive headache where they tried on one after another, or they'd ask me the question of like, their skin tone versus the right shade of pink, red, or too pinky red blue, or too peachy, and like really passionately adamant about that color is awful on me. And I'll agree, like, don't put a maroon colored lipstick on me. Not maroon. I'm thinking of something different, but like a bright pink on me, or I just look stupid. But that's all stuff that it's hysterical, and we go through this at great length. For example, my favorite is when somebody has a wedding, and they come in like, I have a wedding to go to. Like, the rest of the year, it does not matter, but they have a wedding to go to, and suddenly they need concealer, mascara, and the perfect lipstick. And I always have to start with, well, what color is your dress that you're wearing?
Yeah.
And it's emerald, so should I go with a deep red, or should I go with this color? And like, we should avoid those. And like, that's an intense dialogue for going to an event where you're gonna eat off your lip color and then probably forget about it anyway. But
it should be, how does it taste?
Oh yeah,
like,
we don't think about that.
Flavored.
Oof. The lipsticks that I have tasted over the years that you're like, this should not be in a tube anywhere near anybody's face. No. It smells like your grandma's powder, or fill in the blank, and then you're tasting that.
Yeah, terrible.
Not into it.
I think it's so it's so important, I think, to recognize that line, and you just said it, where like sometimes people might come into your store in the past and it's like, so fun, like, let's just experiment, let's see what looks good, because I love wearing lipstick. I don't personally love wearing lipstick, but someone might, and they might be so excited about it.
Yeah, I was so into it.
Right. And then it transitions into this like
obsession.
Yeah. And that's where it becomes stressful. And that's where, like we're talking about last week, where it becomes this thing that is no longer fun, and it becomes this source of maybe trying to control things, maybe trying to control what you're putting on your body, what you're doing,
what modifications. Those moments as is generally it was the like mother of the bride or the mother of the groom, or a bridesmaid. And what was happening, it wasn't about the lipstick, it was about the wedding and the stress of the wedding and the stress of whatever. And we talked about that before. If you go back to our podcast, if you only knew what actually went through our minds, you would hear us talking about, like, in stress we regress to things we can control. And so I mean, they feel like this whole wedding is this big thing and it feels stressful, and they're kind of processing that through lipstick color.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, the great lengths that we'll go to for beauty they don't stop. I worked in Beverly Hills in hairstyling, and in my world, in that world, I had to get out because I saw one client after another come in, and I was 19 years old. I had just gotten back from Europe. I had already sort of been obsessed with fashion and beauty anyway, of loving like the vibrance and the styles and all of these ways you could kind of play with color, play with hair. I would pore over Harper's Bazaar because it was like the most high fashion, and Cosmo and sort of those magazines weren't really my thing, because it wasn't about how to perfect myself, but I did love makeup and hair at the time. So I was working in a salon doing hair in Beverly Hills, and we were doing everything from professional hair straightening, which took hours, to extensions, again, hours, $100 an hour. And this is not abnormal at all for many cultures, but it was just this like painful process to go through with clients, because it was also an obsessive process of like, I need my perfect highlights and I need the perfect length, and sitting in a chair. And then again, I just referenced my partner, like, he just needs a haircut this week, and he couldn't even figure out on the menu on the phone that said like above shoulder cut is this much, or above the ear cut is this much, and he's like, I don't know, I just want to cut. And I was like, well, don't even go into the world of like, do you want a single process hair color with highlights? Do you want a multi-process hair color with a above the shoulder cut? Do you want layers? Do you want around the chin layers? Do you want to go with a mullet style, short bangs, long bangs, curtain bangs?
Yep.
How many layers? How fluffy? I mean,
yeah.
I should have launched into that because he was really whining about having to pick from 5 options. It was like buzz cut above the ears, and I was like, babe, you're above the ears. He's like, what about like the stuff below, like on the back of my head? I said, I don't think they're gonna leave you with a mullet.
It'll be fine.
It was gonna be okay, but it was pretty fun to see that disparity between what I would experience with these female clients, which was the primary client coming into the salon, and every 5 weeks spending $600 to get their hair professionally straightened so it was perfectly silky. And this is early 2000s when perfectly straight hair was super in.
I remember that.
And
I did a lot of straightening.
Yeah, your hair is so curly and beautiful, and it's like, okay, now I gotta change this because in 2000 you gotta have perfectly straight hair. And I was in that world, but it went so far beyond like, let's have pretty hair.
Right.
There were people with extensive plastic surgery. One person to the point where she unfortunately was cross-eyed because her face was so tight. And I have to hold compassion. Like, the first instinct is to like laugh and mock, and that's not fair because that person clearly is working out trauma through taking action on their body. And I'm curious around this topic, though. We go to these great lengths for beauty.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deeper issue for us as women that we're trying to tackle by being hairless from the chin down, being beautifully, perfectly coiffed from the nose up, for having perfect skin, perfect on-point makeup, nails of all types, obviously toes and shoes that are tall and high, and skirts that are short or tight or knee or above the knee. There's how low cut can the shirt be. I've definitely worn an endless amount of high heels and tight or otherwise clothing that I have to constantly adjust or maneuver that like my boobs don't fall out or the shoulder doesn't fall down. I just completely expose myself.
It just makes me think of how much, like, all of those things, at least for me, when you're describing those things, I immediately think, oh my God, if I did any of those things right now in my life, it would be 100% for someone else.
Yeah.
Not for any one person necessarily, just for other people. Mm-hmm. Because I mentioned, before, we've got a lot of sensory stuff. Mm-hmm. And so for me to have to wear something where I think something might be like popping out, or I think I need to like adjust constantly, I just don't have the energy for it, and it makes me kind of like get the heebie-jeebies a little bit when I think about wearing stuff like that, because I can't like just be comfortable and confident in my own skin. It reminded me
that the other text I showed you sent you was of a younger girl in a parking lot wearing a very tight outfit, lots of makeup, hair done,
with huge holes cut out on either side of her torso.
Mm-hmm. I fully own a dress like that, but I was laughing because my partner's comment was, is she lost in a parking garage?
Well, also, like, is she cold? And that's my it's my lens coming in again. I get cold easily if you haven't already figured that out.
Right.
But yeah, it just the whole piece to me is runs so deep in from the perspective of as women and anyone who identifies as a woman, your sexual appeal is your value.
Yeah.
And no matter what other things you accomplish, even if you're praised for those things as well, you also need to make sure that you get praise for your sex appeal. And that's where, like, for me, when I was working in home family therapy, not the saran wrap day because it would have been a little too much, but I would sometimes wear heels because I was like, this is so fun. I'm wearing my heels. I put together this outfit. I'm feeling great. And I was working with a male coworker who was one of my support people when working with this family. And I got out of the car at this family's house, and I wasn't wearing like an evening dress and heels. I was wearing jeans and high heels. And I walked across the street, and the car had to slow down because I was walking across the street. And the first thing he said to me is, "Whoa, you stopped traffic." And I immediately like got deflated.
It's interesting because I think he was probably thinking he was complimenting you.
Exactly. Right.
And then you were like, "Can't I just wear my heels and be me without commentary?"
Yeah. Can you just say hi first, maybe, or something? And even for me, when especially in a professional setting, because yes, we're going to people's homes, which sometimes lines.
It's not like your date that you're like excited to hear that.
Right. Yeah. Right. This is someone who I know professionally, so it was almost like that professionalism goes out the window because I'm a younger woman wearing high heels. And
I think the deflation came from like, wow, my value has nothing to do with my professional value. It's how cute I look.
Exactly. Yeah.
It takes away the intellectual you. It takes away the intelligence that you have and your ability to be that professional woman that you were really embodying in that moment.
Right. And I was early on in my career. This was again like during that same time 10 years ago, and it was, I was trying to establish myself. I knew I had some really good clinical skills. I was pretty confident in my ability to work, but I also was establishing myself just professionally overall in general. And so that kind of thing was just like, really?
So the beauty industry is a $561 billion industry.
A lot of dollars.
And the U.S. market of cosmetics alone, that's mascara, eyeshadow, is a $56.2 billion industry in 2021. I was telling Meg that when I first started tracking this, because I had a clean beauty store and I was curious, what piece of the pie clean beauty had in that. It was like 175 billion in 2016, and they're projecting the industry to grow by 2025 to $765 billion. Now, when I had the clean beauty store, many people would come in and say, "Oh, I've watched this YouTube video," or "I've watched so many YouTube videos on how to do this or this product," or "I really am interested in it." And I thank YouTube for that process, but there's also part of me that as I stood in that place day after day, week after week, helping women pick out color and makeup and stuff, I kept trying to figure out what it is that we're trying to fix. And that, I like wearing makeup. I feel confident wearing makeup. And I can definitely say going out without makeup, I don't feel like myself, which is a strange thing to say, right? Like, I am me no matter whether I'm wearing makeup or not. How that got perpetuated for me. How I can tell from a young age that above all things, I wanted to be intelligent, but I was mocked a lot in my family for like not being able to do math well, or or by like, a sibling telling me I was basically stupid. And so I was like, well, if I can't be smart, which I know now I'm incredibly intelligent and smart and capable, but at the time, if I can't be smart, even though I had honors in high school, then I might as well be beautiful.
Right.
And I might as well make sure that I take every step to be beautiful. And so part of that journey is to step into me at the age of 19 into this hair salon in Beverly Hills and to believe like, okay, now I'm the expert. Now I'm the expert on beauty, and I can help people feel that confidence, feel excited about themselves. But I was also participating in that narrative of like, well, why don't we just fix your hair color and fix the shape of it, and you know, and then you'll be happier. And I want to get back to talking about fixing in a second, but I want to mention that after being there for about a year, I realized I had to get out. I had to make a major life change because I was already headed down the road at 19 of standing in the mirror. I have a very specific memory of standing in front of a mirror in that salon, looking at myself and wondering if I needed some plastic surgery on my face, and if I needed a boob job. And that's the culture that I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up around the movie industry. My father worked in it. And beauty and celebrity and all of that was just deeply ingrained in my childhood. And so when I'm thankful, at least, that my intuition and my higher self was like, girl,
hold up.
This is not your journey. This is not your path. Like, you are worthy of not doing this damage to yourself because your body is fantastic. And this also kind of probably came on the heels of a comment from a client, whether it was like that week or that day, of looking at me in the mirror as she sat in the chair, and I was kind of standing in the background of like, she's so pretty, if we could just put like a little makeup on her. And I was like, whoa.
And that gets to, you know, something we were talking about yesterday was what always surprises me and yet doesn't surprise me at the same time is how much women will comment negatively about other women.
Well, and I was going to talk about that. One of the best, highest selling and highest grossing marketing, help me out with this, tabloids.
Yeah.
Publications was the big word I was looking for. Publications is tabloid magazines that basically bark at, tear down, mock women who have had not enough surgery or too much surgery, or their outfit, and there's like good, better, best with certain Oscar outfits.
Who wore it best? Who did what?
Their combo of shoes.
Who lost the baby weight the fastest?
Oh God! Or look at Kim's cellulite, like
any number of tear down things.
Like the body is somehow this object to just keep poking at all of the little pieces that aren't right, and we will self-perpetuate this, right? Like, I read tabloids. I was like addicted to them at a certain point in like teens, 20s, probably more 20s. But thinking about, you look at it and somehow it makes us feel better to be like, oh well, I mean,
at least
I did gain a lot of weight.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I think so often it can be sort of easy to say like, oh, well, men just think our bodies are just there to comment on however they want to. And some of that, there's some truth there. But I think also women and those who identify as women do the same to other women. I think that it's just, and in some ways,
and brutally.
I think, exactly.
You could listen. There's a couple of them that have their websites, and they are brutal.
And in a very intimate way, funny. Because there's this, I think, and I've fallen into this before, where there's a sense of, oh, but I'm talking to other women, so it's okay, like, I'm safe here. And it's so not that way with all of those kinds of groups. It's just, it can be incredibly brutal, as you said, and in some ways even more damaging, I think, at times.
And so we keep setting the bar.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting higher. Right, so it's not just like, let's rewind before makeup was a thing.
Right.
You could coif your hair a certain way and follow that style, and wear your clothing a certain way and follow that, but the bar just keeps going higher and higher until there's so many steps. So it's interesting to think about, like, you know, at one point it was just wear clothes that cover your body.
Right.
Then it was wear corsets and accoutrements, you know, as in the, you know, European.
Break blood vessels in your face so that you
Yes.
look like you have red cheeks.
Pinch your cheeks. You know, make sure you look alive. And then it's, wear rouge. And then it's become wear foundation, concealer. I mean, was this mid 2000s? It was like baking, wear foundation, concealer, contour, highlight, bake, eyeshadow, eyeliner, eyebrows, lip liner, lipstick, lip gloss, nails, toenails, hair, extensions, jewelry, clothes.
My eyes are just getting like wider and wider as you're listing. I'm like, oh my god.
Wait, like, I just want to ask the question to everyone out there listening, like, is there a stopping point? Is there a breaking point where we're just like, I can't even keep up?
Well, I think I would absolutely say no. There's not, because
we can do anything we want.
I think that the proof is in that dollar amount.
The growth of the beauty industry.
It's just continuing more and more and more and more. And in some ways it's the same stuff, just repackaged.
Mm-hmm.
But there's sort of like, there's no lengths in terms of money that will be spent. And,
mm-hmm.
You know, maybe there's not necessarily endless levels. I don't know. There might be. But I think it's just kind of endless, and that's by design, so that then
well,
you get
I
that.
have to ask the tough question, because I'm going to answer this honestly, even though it's really vulnerable for me. What's the thing for you in this? I mean, you talked about getting the laser hair removal.
Yeah.
But there's always something we're kind of milling in our head of, like, beautifying ourselves in some
mm-hmm.
way. What's your thing?
I would probably say boob job.
Mm-hmm. You have great boobs, though.
Not bigger. I don't want any bigger.
Just like reshaped?
Lift and reshape.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang.
I know, right?
Not once have I looked at you and been like, her boobs are not in the right spot. I'm always like, the hat.
I mean, at 36, like, that's and the crazy thing to me is that I've been thinking about that probably since I was 26.
So mine is, I look at my legs and my thighs and my butt, and I'm like, oh, what if I got them all shaped by whatever the thing is?
Right.
I dare not think about liposuction because I've seen the damage that does, but it goes through my mind. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm working out, but I look at people with hot, sexy, thin legs, and I'm like, damn, I want those legs. Why was I born with thicker thighs or calves? You know, it's like, but why do I even consider, like, for example, thigh gap comes up, right? I had Barbie dolls. You look at models that eat cotton balls and lettuce for, you know, before a show. Nobody wants to look like that, but there is a standard, and I look in the mirror and I think that, and then I also stop to go, well, would I feel any happier?
Right. Well, and I think...
So let's answer that question, though. Would you feel happier?
No.
Okay. You have to let me finish.
No, I didn't even have to let you finish the question. No, I wouldn't. And I think, and that's why also I would say, like, I don't have money for that. I don't want to spend money on that.
Yeah.
And I think it changed from that, right? Like, 10 years ago it was I don't have money for that, and now it's like I don't want, like, that's not how I want to spend my money.
Like 30 grand on your boobs.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I still might not have that money, but I think that to me it was so, like, we both knew exactly what we would change, and we're both people who I think are very much comfortable in our own skin, have done a lot of work to get to that place. Yet, how pervasive is it that we still know pretty much right away?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't say when I started thinking about that was like teens.
Yeah.
For me. Like, as a teenage girl, I did have one summer where I like killed myself doing basketball and volleyball for fun and trying out, and I had like just perfect legs and calves, but I was exercising like 8 hours during the day doing these things. Like, who can keep up that standard? And I was like loving everything about my body, and it makes me sad when I get to a point where I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, oh, maybe if I just get like my knees a little something, you know, or like my cellulite, and I'm like, my partner constantly praises my curves and my body, and like me doing that, I think almost,
and even beyond that,
it would make him and me sad. I wouldn't be happier. It would be like, well, you just put yourself through so much pain.
And that's the thing, is that you just said your answer there wouldn't make you happier. And so regardless of what he would think or does think or say, you know, for you, it's not going to make you happier.
I would have spent a lot of money and been in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
That's not funsies.
No.
But there's many, many people who have.
Yeah.
And I think some women would be like, I feel so much more confident, or I love that, you know, I have a perfect butt.
I also do know someone who, you know, had a I don't know what kind of surgery exactly, but had a boob job, for lack of a better way of saying it. And because she was, when she started to develop as a teenager, she had very different sizes between her breasts, and so.
Well, I also want to address like any women who have had cancer,
of course,
had breasts removed. Like, that is not that's not a topic that we're touching at all, because you have every right to have your breasts.
And really, what we're talking about is the marketing industry and how pervasive it is into convincing us that something is wrong with us and we need to fix something always. And I think that's the root of it. And so
not just the boob job.
It's not the boob job. It's not the legs. It's not like that.
It's everything.
What it's about.
There's no part of our body that we don't like scan and think like, well, what could we perfect today?
If I could just.
Yeah. And that's actually the perfect thing that is said. If I could just get a tummy tuck, have thinner arms, no bat wings, fuller lips, tinier nose, bigger eyes, fuller eyebrows right now, thinner eyebrows 10 years from now, straighter hair, curlier hair, a better clavicle. I don't know. There's a bajillion, skinnier ribs, tinier waist.
So April, what do you do to shake all that stuff off and let it go?
I come back to the place of what makes me feel good. How do I feel good? So if it's like, if I'm judging my body that hard, I'm clearly struggling with something. And I need to go back to like, well, if I'm not feeling good about myself, like, what am I not doing to take care of myself? Because I know I feel good if I'm sleeping well, eating well, like taking time to read and write poetry. I'm just that person. Taking time to be still and go for walks and things like that. And then also exercise for me is not a tool to be like, well, I'll just get, the perfect arms. I like the way I look, but it's also like, I gotta feel good in my body. And then I just stop the judgment that's so harsh. Do I look in the mirror almost daily and wonder? Absolutely. I can't lie and say, I don't stand in front of, there's a mirror in front of us, like, and be like, I wonder what I would look like if.
Yeah.
But it's also sad to me that the first memory I have as a 9-year-old about my body is recognizing in the mirror at a swim party that I thought my belly looked a little big, and I was like, wow, how do I fix that? And at 9 years old, I had already been indoctrinated by TV and magazines that was even a thing.
So early.
Because there's
especially when we were growing up, like, I feel like now
even more. Yeah, they just published an article about Facebook and how mentally damaging it is for teenage girls.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, specifically Instagram.
Yeah.
But that's
social media in
so
general.
sad to think about. Like, even I at 9, and then I look back at my own little girl, and I kept my mouth. Like, that was a vow as a mother when that girl was born. No talking about my body. No talking about changing it or altering it or anything. Like, and she one day stood in front of the mirror, and most little girls between 4 and 6 have cute little bellies. And she said, my belly is fat, I think is what came out of her mouth. And I tried to think through, like, where on earth would she have heard that?
Yeah.
And it did come from a family member who was unhappy with their weight and would grab their belly fat and say, like, look how fat I am. And I was like, wow, there's no avoiding this. Even if she didn't watch TV back then, she didn't have, social media access or anything, or commercials, because we didn't even own a TV. And we just, like, lived in the woods. And it's interesting to think about, like, even without all of that, she's still at 4 years old, made a comment about her body.
It's, like, unavoidable to just absorb that from anywhere.
I mean, it's on billboards, and you just drive down the road and have it get in your face. So
I think one of the ways that I have found to be the best to combat that and to let that go myself has been a lot of what you were saying is like, okay, if I'm obsessing about something, about my physical appearance, something else is going on, much like we were talking about last week with those well-worn pathways.
Yeah.
And
because we can control getting boobs and legs.
Right. But maybe you can't control if you want to make a career change and it's really stressful or something.
Yeah.
So, thinking to myself when I get in that space and thinking, wait a minute, there's so much more that you are.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me. And when I first started to, like, try to tell myself that, I was like, yeah, I know, but really though, like, what are we going to do about this?
You're like, shut up.
Yeah. But sticking with it, because I very much am a real down-to-earth kind of person, and so for me, I'm like, I'm not going to talk to myself about this, like, that's not going to work, and whatever. It does, it definitely does, and I think that that's been, like, all right, what else am I? But not to say, oh, that's not who you are. When I'm obsessing, because I don't want to shame myself for having those thoughts, because they're going to come up and they're still mine.
To a spinning world is something else.
Right. They're still mine, and that's okay.
So it's not, because we can't, just like you said, if you're having, so one, we're always going to have something pop up.
Yeah.
It's inevitable until the day we die, because those things have been wired in us. And I will say, there are older women, and I talked about this with you, that will say, oh, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I hope that's true. I just think that there's also sort of the backlash of, and I'll give this example of, like, I'm not going to care anymore because I'm sick of it. Right. And I tried to head into that space. So I can say, like, for a short
still an anger,
few years, I was like, I'm not going to care. I'm going to just be fully hippie and, whatever. And I wasn't happy with that version either. I wasn't and not that I didn't like the way I looked. It's just that I wasn't having the fun I did with my clothes. I wasn't having the fun I did with my hair and makeup. So there's a point where, like you said, shaming is not really the way you want to go. If you're, like, thinking about changing your legs, your boobs, your arms, your eyes, your hair. It's more about, like, why is this thought going through our mind? How do we have fun with it? How do we stay playful?
Right.
How do we not self-abuse? Right? Because that's the most dangerous part. And that's where I want to come back to that woman who had so much plastic surgery. She would have been mocked in a tabloid, but there's so much compassion for the fact that she was probably in a space of, like, it's very self-abusive to keep going back and, like, obsessing over, like, is it tight enough or adjusted right, or
And we just don't know, like, it just goes back to that overall notion of, like, we don't know anyone else's experience. Mm-hmm. And so the thought of, for me, of tearing down other women or even, like, laughing at something that I think is ridiculous, yes, I might do that. But when it's at that level, I think making sure that we come back to that notion of we have no idea.
Well, we might as well laugh at ourselves.
Right.
Right? Because if we're going to point the finger, we've got to laugh at ourselves and be like, well, I thought about it.
Yeah. Stood in front of the mirror.
We all want to pretend, though, if you're at a party with other women, we're like, yeah, oh my gosh, that girl had a boob job. And like, yeah. But then you're like, oh, I definitely thought about a boob job at one point, by the way.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that in California because I was like, that's just what you do. You live in LA.
Yeah.
Get a boob job. Go blonde.
Yeah.
I'm blonde now, but it's fake.
For today.
So, my question is, in this space, we've kind of covered a big, broad topic of like the lengths we'll go to for beauty.
Yeah.
Is it okay to have fun with it? Is it acceptable? Because I think some of our listeners might be wanting to ask, like, are we saying like a judgment one way or the other? Like, is it acceptable or this is not acceptable? And part of me wants to be like, it's so not acceptable that the bar keeps getting raised higher. But at the same time, I feel like it's good to say, play with whatever you want and have fun.
I think it's about changing that question a little bit and then asking yourself and changing it to, instead of is it acceptable, using that word fun. Is it fun? Am I having fun? In whatever you're doing, whatever combination of, whether it be plastic surgery of some kind, whether it be makeup, whether it be clothes, whether it be, that you're wanting to like wear pajamas all day and not do any makeup, whether you want to do all your makeup and wear all the jewelry but also wear pajamas, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is it fun?
Yeah.
And is it for me? Those are the two questions. Right.
And it could be, I mean, I was just thinking about like when I've heard people say like their house is getting a facelift, right? But we're humans. We are endlessly like pursuing something next more level or changing something.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have to acknowledge that, like, we're gonna update our house or upgrade our bathroom, and we're obsessed with HGTV for a reason.
Right.
Similarly to the beauty industry, and I think that's the question is like, are you remodeling your house because you want it to be like impressive, or are you having fun like making a home? And
right.
Same with your body, like, are you remodeling your body? I'm making air quotes for those who can't see me on YouTube. Or are you like having fun with your style, your clothes? Do you feel beautiful? Does putting on the tight dress make you feel like just
$1 million?
Or do you feel horrible putting it on, but you're gonna try to pull it off and feel like something else? It's just, that's not where we want it to be. And so that's, I think, how the best we can answer that question, because it's such a big, broad topic.
I think it goes back to our first episode around intuition. Like, trusting yourself to know, has it crossed that line? Because for me, what I would go back to if I was like, oh my God, this thing, it's like, wait a minute, take that pause and think, is this really for other people or someone else, or because of some expectation you have for yourself that you don't really want to have, that you're kind of battling yourself around? Yeah. Or is this fun and makes you feel good?
Yeah.
And piece. Like if you sit with yourself, you can figure that, you can answer that question for yourself.
Well, because the other piece of that answer is, if you're doing it endlessly to meet a standard of someone else, it'll just become pervasive that you'll never meet it.
Right.
If you're meeting yourself in a space that you're enjoying the process of putting on makeup or styling your hair a certain way or putting on the jewelry, you're engaging with something that you're saying, like, I'm gonna walk out the store and I'm gonna like enjoy my day because I feel really good about how I look, not, oh, I hope I look okay, or I hope I fill in the blank. It's all about meeting yourself in this space where you are just like ready to take on the day and feel good and have fun.
So take on the day, feel good, have fun,